part we have finished about the administration of Delhi Sultans. In that we have studied all the admins of different rulers of Mamluk dynasty, Khilji dynasty and Tughlaq. In this part of our video, we will study about art and architecture and literature during the time of sultans. And now in this part of our video, we will discuss about three dynasties, art and architecture under three dynasties, and they are Mamluk dynasty, Khilji dynasty and Tughlaq dynasty. And during the 13th century, we can see that there are so many buildings are built. Art and architecture was prospered during this time. So many new buildings were made, and these buildings were made in a mixed culture, or we can say that it's a culture of Indo-Islamic culture. And this tradition or the way of making the buildings came from some from Turk, some from Arabs, etc. Dome-shaped structures and arches, all these things are used in the construction of building. And not only this new things are introduced, those which was followed by the Indians was also used by the Islamic rulers by making the buildings. So in the video we can see that how these people have made these buildings and how it is very important. Till now we can see such type of buildings which is a mixture of culture of Indian and Arabic style. So we will start with the first one, that is the buildings which is made during the time of Mamluk Sultans. In Mamluk Sultans, two rulers are there, Qutbuddin Aibak and Iltutmish. Qutbuddin Aibak built two important buildings. They are Quwat ul Islam Mosque, and one more building is Alai Dinka Chopra. And along with that, he started building a new minar, that is Qutub Minar. He started its construction, but unfortunately due to his death he was not able to complete it, and was completed by Iltutmish, who followed him. So Iltutmish was also a Mamluk Sultan. He constructed so many reservoirs, so many forts, and along with that he completed the building of this Qutub Minar. So that is all about the importance of Mamluk Sultans who made this buildings. Now the second one is Khilji rulers. Khilji rulers, in that Alauddin Khilji, he built forts, and it is mainly made for protecting his country. And along with that, he made a door for the Qutub Minar. We can call it as Alai Darwaza. It's very famous. Alai Darwaza is considered as a gateway to Qutub Minar complex. So that is about Alauddin Khilji. And the next is Tughlaq dynasty. In Tughlaq dynasty, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, they made a city which is called as Tughlaqabad, and then along with that Firoz Shah Tughlaq, he also built so many buildings, forts, etc. So that is all about the introduction to art and architecture. So many buildings are made, forts are made, palaces are made, and all these things are made mainly for protecting their country and for showing their pomp and splendor. Now we move to the next part, that is language and literature. Language and literature, two languages were used during that time, which was popular during that time, that is Arabic and Sanskrit. Arabic was used by the sultans or the people who came from Turk and Afghanistan. They used this language, Arab, and Sanskrit was the common language which was used by the upper strata of the society, and it was a language which was used by the learned. Most of the literatures were written in Arabic and Sanskrit language, and the court language also was this Arabic and Sanskrit. Vijayanagar, etc. In such places in Deccan region, people use Sanskrit. The Hindu rulers use Sanskrit, and the Muslim rulers use Arabic. And now the next one is Urdu. Urdu was a new language introduced during that time, and we cannot say that it is a newly introduced language. It's a language which is a mixture of two languages. It's a mixture of Hindi and Persian, and it is considered as a language which is a mixture of Hindi and Persian in North India. And when we go toward the southern part of India, it's a language which is a mixture of Marathi, then Telugu, etc. So it is not a language which is like a specific language like Hindi or English or any such language. It is not like that. It's a language which is camp of soldiers. The soldiers who came from different part of the country, they usually speak their mother tongue. So they need a language in which they can communicate with each other. So they made a new language. So this Urdu is also called as a camp language. It is a language which is made by the soldiers to communicate with each other. So this language is influenced by the people who speak that. If it is in South India, then it is influenced by Marathi and Telugu, and if it is in North India, it is influenced by Hindi. So during that time, Urdu became a very popular language. Not only these three languages, other local languages also became very popular due to the Bhakti saints. The Bhakti saints usually used, the Sufis and the Bhakti saints, they usually use the local languages to preach their teaching. So this local languages also became very popular during that time because this learned men or the Sufis usually teach them in the local language. Now we will just see some important writers or some important philosophers during that time. The first one is Amir Khusro. He made a new style called Indian style. It is called as Sabak-e-Hindi, and it's a new style to write. It's a mixture of Indian and the Persian style. Now Malik Muhammad Jayasi, he wrote Padmavati in Hindi. And the last one is Zia Naqshbandi. He was also a popular writer during that time. So that is all about language and literature. So in this part of this video, we have discussed about art and architecture. And the architectural feature means it is a mixture of Indian style and Arabic style. And then three dynasties, what are the buildings built by them, and language and literature. Like other videos, the second part of the video will be a PowerPoint presentation. Each and every point is written there. You can learn and you can write the important points, you can note it down, and you can prepare for the exam. Thank you.
Art and architecture. The Turkish rulers constructed many buildings using architectural features borrowed from Arabs like arc and domes. The arc and dome was used in the construction of mosques and palaces. The Turks used geometrical and floral design along with panels of inscriptions containing verses from Holy Quran. They also used Indian motifs like bell, swastika, lotus, etc. The Turks added color to their building by using red sandstone along with yellow sandstone and marble. So this is we can call as the architectural features. Which what are the things which they used in their buildings? They borrowed arc and dome style of architecture, and they used to write verses of Holy Quran. Motifs like bell, swastika, lotus, etc. was used by them, and along with that, red sandstone, yellow sandstone, marble, etc. was used by them for constructing their buildings. Now, buildings of the Delhi Sultanate. Here we can categorize it into the buildings made by the Mamluk Sultans, the Khaljis, and the Tughlaqs. So let's start with the Mamluk Sultans. The first one is about Qutbuddin Aibak. The most famous building constructed by Qutbuddin Aibak was Quwat ul Islam Mosque and Adai Dinka Chopra. Along with that, he started the construction of Qutub Minar, but he was not able to complete it. It was completed by Iltutmish. Second one is Iltutmish. He was a patron of art and architecture and completed the construction of Qutub Minar. He built a mosque at the Badaun and his own tomb of red sandstone. It both are made in Delhi. And he constructed a large reservoir just outside Old Delhi called as Hauzi Sultani. You can see the image of that, the reservoir where water was stored. This is that reservoir, Hauzi Sultani. Now, next one is Khalji. The Khalji period saw a lot of building activity. Alauddin Khilji had his capital at Siri and built Siri Fort. He built an entrance door to Qutub Minar called Alai Darwaza. And the image of Alai Darwaza and Qutub Minar, everything you have seen in the previous videos. And he started building the Alai Minar at Qutub Minar complex, but the construction was abandoned soon after his death. He also built a madrasa and a big tank for royal bath at Hauz Khas in Delhi. Tughlaq. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq and Muhammad bin Tughlaq built huge palaces, fortresses called Tughlaqabad. It's a palace fortress called Tughlaqabad. Firoz Shah was a great builder. He built many towns like Firozabad, Jaunpura, Hisar, and Fatehabad. Firoz Shah built a new capital city on the bank of river Yamuna called Firoz Shah Kotla and abandoned the old fort city of Tughlaqabad. Firoz Shah took special care to preserve ancient monuments. He brought to Delhi two pillars of Emperor Ashoka and placed one of them on the roof of his palace. So this is about the first three important dynasties and the buildings built by them. Now let's see about language and literature. It's a last part of our chapter. When two cultures interact with each other, it results in the formation of a new language and literature. Persian and Hindi language led to the emergence of new language called Urdu. The word Urdu literally means camp. Urdu was spoken by the soldiers with different mother tongue to speak to one another. So it was language which was originated in the camp. Many soldiers from different part of the country come together during the time of war, and at that time each one is talking their own mother tongue. So they want a common language to speak with each other. So for that they made a new language called Urdu, and this Urdu language is influenced or it is different in different places. If in North India it is spoken with Hindi and Persian, and when it comes to the South India it is having a little bit of mixture with Telugu and other South Indian languages. Urdu that was spoken in Deccan was influenced by Telugu and Marathi. So it's not an original language, it is a mixture of many language and it is made in the camps by the soldiers, so it is called as a camp language. Language and literature. The use of Arabic remained confined to a small group of Islamic scholars and philosophers. Most of the original literature of Islamic rulers was written in Arabic. Sanskrit continued to be the language of higher learning, and it was used for religious rituals and on the ceremonial occasions in the court of Hindu rulers like the ruler of Vijayanagar. Two forms of Hindi were used during the Sultanate period, that is Braj and Awadhi. The use of regional language by the Bhakti saint helped in the growth of these languages. The Bhakti saints, they usually used the local languages for preaching and for making the people understand about the values. So during that time the local languages also became very popular. Now, some important writers during that time. Amir Khusro was the most notable Persian writer of the time. He created a new style called as Indian style or Sabak-e-Hindi. And next one is Malik Muhammad Jayasi. He was a Muslim scholar. He wrote Padmavati in Hindi. A number of Persian works were translated into Sanskrit and vice versa. That means some are translated to from Sanskrit to Persian and some from Persian to Sanskrit. Zia Naqshbandi translated stories in Persian, which came to be known as Tutnama during Muhammad bin Tughlaq's reign. So these are the main literary works and the main poets and the writers during that time. Not only this, there are so many writers are there, and the court poets and the people who used to write the stories and the life sketch of each ruler, and all these are considered as the main source of income to source of knowledge to study about people of Sultanate or the rulers. They were given so many information about the ruling, about the warfare, about the architecture, about the administration, etc. Now, as a conclusion, we can say that the coming of Turks and the Afghan led to many experiments with new pattern of living. New religious movements, language, art, architecture, everything changed when this Afghans and the Turks came to India. When they mixed up with Indians, they resulted in the formation of a new culture or Indo-Islamic style of culture emerged, and new type of lifestyle, new language, new religious movements, art, architecture, everything changed, and it results in the formation of a composite culture called as Indo-Islamic culture. architecture. So that is all about this chapter. Answers are already given. So this is the last chapter of our second semester history. One more chapter will be uploaded, that is of civics. So after finishing or watching this, learning the question answers and finishing the chapter, you can watch the next video and it will be uploaded soon. Thank you.